I'm Jen, and I'm in Shreveport, and I'm here today. I'm going to talk to you about jackfruit. So this is a jackfruit. This is a baby jackfruit. Actually, it's only 10 pounds. They can grow up to 100 pounds or more in the tree. But they are an exotic fruit, tropical, originally to Asia. Now it's popping up in all kinds of tropic zones. I think you can grow in South Florida, Hawaii, Mexico, and they are also popping up in the regular grocery stores. So you can find it in the mainstream groceries now. So this guy is big, and I wanted to show you, if you're so inclined to buy one and dig into it, what to look for when you get a jackfruit. You want a jackfruit that is not bright green and pretty like that. You want one that's turning yellow and brownish, that's showing you that it's getting to the ripe stage. You also want, you'll notice it has these spikes all over it. You want to look for a jackfruit whose spikes have separated and are smooth and a little bit lower, rather than the spikes that are pokey up like this and sharper. So, which means that this is the riper part of the fruit. The other thing to look for is a well-rounded fruit, like this end of the fruit. This is where all the good stuff is right here. This part, I wouldn't buy this one, but I appreciate my friend at the Asian market letting me borrow this today. This part right here is a wasted poundage in what you're paying for. There's nothing there that is edible. But jackfruit, when it's ripe, delicious and sweet, tastes kind of like bananas and mangoes, and it looks like this when it's ripe. So this one has this huge hole in here, which is where the seed pod was. The seeds are full of protein. You can boil them and roast them and eat them like nuts. They're delicious. But the fruit itself, again, tastes sort of like banana, mango, very tropical. And they are great for sweet desserts. They're great to eat like that, or you put it in muffins. You can make smoothies with it. I actually made a mango salsa with it, or not mango, I'm sorry. It's like a mango salsa, only it's a jackfruit salsa. And later I'm going to have a margarita with the jackfruit margarita after we finish the show. I'm not going to cut into this because it is quite a job. It's messy, so you have to cover your whole area. It's sticky, so you need oil on your hands and your knife. But I encourage anybody that has the gumption to do it, to do it. But you can buy the sweet mango in cans at the Asian market, usually packed in a lot of heavy syrup. So I don't recommend that. But you can also find it in the freezer section in bags like this. And often the Asian market, at least the one I go to, she cuts it up and you can buy sections of it to take home and try. Really super delicious. So what we're going to work with today, though, is the young green jackfruit. It's a wonderful thing because you can manipulate it into all different types of dishes for savory foods. So that also comes in cans like this. You can find it organic and non-organic. You can buy it in this bag right here, which is not in a brine, which I recommend for some dishes, and I'll explain that to you in a moment. And you can also find it in jars. You can find them in Whole Foods. Usually the local health food stores have them, or again, the Asian markets. The young green jackfruit, so they pick it when it's not ripe. So the sugars haven't developed and the sweet flavors are not in there. So it's a lot like tofu, where you can manipulate the flavors. And the texture for it is a lot like pulled pork and chicken shredded. So this is what it looks like when you get it out of the can, like this. And we'll work with this in a little bit when we get to our recipe. But the great thing about jackfruit is it's an awesome meat substitute when it's young. And it is so low in calorie, so high in fiber, vitamin C, B6, magnesium, antioxidants, and again, the seeds have the protein in there. So it is just a great substitute for meat. And this is what we're going to work with today. So I'm going to make a pork version with this. It's going to be a barbecue sandwich, and let's get started with that recipe. So I've started already with my onions. I've started browning the onions in the pan because that does take a little while. I like to caramelize them, so it takes me a little while. So I did start that already. So these onions are ready. And the next thing I'm going to add is some chopped garlic. And we're going to try to get these flavors, developed for this pork that we're making. So I'm going to saute that around until I can smell the garlic. Just takes a few seconds to get the aroma out. The jackfruit we're going to use in this was the one that was cut in the brine or stored in the brine. And brine is basically a salt solution that preserves the meat. So what you're going to want to do is rinse it and drain it. I actually soak mine for a while. It helps leach out some of that briny flavor. The briny flavor is not a big deal in this dish because we are covering it with a heavy sauce, so you won't get any of the briny flavors, but it will be prevalent in some other dishes that we'll talk about in a little bit. Okay, so I'm sauteing this. Flavor, smell it, wonderful. Now I'm going to add some smoked paprika and some cumin in here. Cumin is really important when you're doing vegan dishes to get that meaty flavor in your meat. And the smoked paprika, of course, is great on barbecues. So it's sticking to the pan. I'm going to add a little bit of water. Let that just stir up. And this is what we've got going. And what I'm just doing right now is toasting the spices. Great. I can smell them. The aromatics are coming out. So now we're going to add a little bit of liquid. Now this is a chipotle chili pepper cut up in there. Also about a tablespoon of bouillon and some liquid smoke. And I'm going to add some water to this dish. And I'm making a broth here. We're going to bring that to a boil. And while that is coming to a boil, I want to talk about what I use this jackfruit for. This jackfruit is not in a brine, so it's better for things that you don't want to have a briny flavor to it or you want to lightly season. So I use it when I'm making crab cakes or tacos, or actually my son and I, yesterday we made some sushi. So we used crab meat with some Old Bay seasoning. We cooked it together with some garlic and salt and pepper and rolled it up in a sushi, as well as some spring rolls here too. Now I'm going to add the jackfruit to this dish. And here's what you got with the jackfruit. And you see how it shreds. I hand shredded this before, but I wanted to show you the seed pods. Now, when the jackfruit is young, you can eat the seed pods. They're soft. You don't have to, when they're ripe, they're firmer and harder, and it's not as good in the dish to eat. But what I like to do is just break up the seed pods and put them in there. Again, that has a lot of protein in it. Okay, I'm bringing this back to a boil. And what we're going to do now is cover it and let it simmer 20 minutes. No, I'm not going to sit here for 20 minutes while that simmers. I'm going to move it to the side because I had started one earlier to save time. And this is what we've got. So while it was simmering, all those seasonings that we put in have infused into the jackfruit. And it's definitely changing the flavors. This is a great dish. I served it at our last year's 4th of July party, and one of my neighbors said, "Your pulled pork is so good." Well, it's not pulled pork. Okay, now I'm going to add some barbecue sauce. I have a homemade barbecue sauce, and I did include that recipe with the recipes that are attached to this video. But you can definitely use your favorite barbecue sauce from a bottle. Just watch out for oil content and sugar content. So I'm going to add enough barbecue sauce to cover this nicely. You see, it's real saucy in there. We want it really saucy. This dish, from this point on, is the easiest dish. Now, what you're going to do is just cover it. And we're going to put it in the oven for 20 more minutes and let those flavors, the barbecue flavors, infuse into that jackfruit. And then what we're going to do is uncover it and cook it for another 20 minutes. And what happens then is the dry air from the oven, and it helps caramelize all the sugars that are in the dish, the natural sugars in the fruit as well as the sugar that's in the barbecue sauce, but it just gives it that extra depth of rich flavor. So I'm going to go put it in the oven, then I'm going to show you what it looks like. And ta-da, this is what we get, some barbecue jackfruit. So I put this on a bun. This is some of the extra. You can see what it looks like. It looks like pulled pork there. It's just wonderful. And this is great on nachos. If you want to make a barbecue nacho, barbecue pizza. I've heard people put it on their macaroni and cheese, anything that you would normally put barbecue. I've used it for a dip before as well. So it's just a great, great dish, but it makes a bunch of sliders. I put some red cabbage in there and some pickles. We pickled some squash and cucumber. And it just is wonderful, and it would be great with the salsa. And that's going to be our lunch for today. I hope that this helps you not be intimidated by the jackfruit. If you do decide to buy a jackfruit at the store, make sure it is not bright green. Make sure that the spikes are separated. It's well-rounded, and I would definitely Google cutting into it the best way and the easiest ways possible before you dig into that, but go for it because it's a wonderful, fun thing to do with a group. So enjoy the jackfruit.